Okay, so I was asked earlier to go through part of the last session of the Driftwood, since the very first session that we had was unfortunately cut short, as in we literally couldn't finish it. Well, we did finish it, but we couldn't get any of the sound. So I thought I'd take you through not just the last session, but what happened in the last series. Just a quick recap, because I had to think about it, and to be honest with you, Driftwood is probably one of the what's the word I'm looking for? Most authentic, most faithful and chronological campaigns that we've ever had. As in, A happens, then B happens, then C happens, then D happens. Now basically in the last, I think of all of the settings that we do here on BOD, Driftwood is probably the most unique, in that it combines a lot of different themes and a lot of different influences, from Mad Max to Fallout to the Wild West to Red Dead Redemption and things like that. They're all thrown in together, steampunk things like the Order 1866, all thrown into this one world. And I wanted to just take you through a little bit of the world and then tell you what the Zero Gang did in the last campaign, which I thought was a really good campaign from start to finish, to be honest with you. And nothing to do with me either. The last campaign was that I wrote, but to be honest with you, quite a lot of what was good about it came from the players, and I think that's one of the major strengths of Driftwood, and that lets people express themselves. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Driftwood is actually the brainchild of me, probably, but it also comes from another world that I created ages ago called Relic, which was a bonkers world filled with orcs and elves and everyone, and whereas this is more down to earth. Driftwood basically takes place in a place called the Driftwood, after a great apocalypse on a planet that isn't our own. It might be our own, we don't know, but it's not. In the story, it's not our own. And yeah, this is the world that had just started to harness magical energy, and they were using magic to basically power everything in the world, until eventually there was a cataclysm, which I haven't expanded upon, and I don't intend to yet, that basically ended the world. There's a massive explosion that tore out the heart of the greatest empire in the world, and the only survivors who really did anything were the ones that were in the northernmost reaches of the empire, so they banded together after this and formed the Commonwealth States. There's 3 of them, and they are the last vestiges of civilization. They surround a freshwater sea, which is the only freshwater sea, like an ocean, and everything below them is completely devastated for a long time. You can't even go down there. But the thing is, the Commonwealth States kind of rely on the technology of the old world. They kind of rely on what they can salvage, and so as soon as the magical radiation levels of the blasted land below the Commonwealth States became habitable again, well, kind of habitable, reclamation teams were sent down there, and of course there was almost like a Cold War power struggle over the resources of what was now called the Driftwood, a vast wasteland that used to be the heart of the empire, as people scrabbled to get as much technology and decode it as they could, and this led to several wars between the Commonwealth States. So in the end, nowadays, it's actually illegal to go into the Driftwood for any army to go into the Driftwood from the Cretan states. They are allowed to send small reclamation teams at best into the Driftwood, but the Driftwood is essentially independent and is allowed to do its own thing. And so instead of fighting a big hot war between the Commonwealth states, they all fight a cold war using agents and wanderers and assassins and hitmen and Pinkertons to go into the Driftwood and peck it clean of all of the best tech, basically. So if you're looking at the Commonwealth states, they're pretty much a steampunk society, you know, top hats, Victorian, that kind of thing. But everything below that is very much, you know, that's like 15 to 20% of the world, and everything below that is basically a Mad Max inspired Fallout-esque wasteland, with heavy trappings of the Wild West. So we'll take you through to the map that we have here. This is the actual map that I made for the campaign that we're doing now, which is Driftwood 2nd, Season 2 of Driftwood. So as you can see here, this is a small area actually of the Driftwood, because around 60% of it isn't mapped. The Driftwood is not mapped. You're seeing at the top of the Talamere, Ruvian and Credence, those are the 3 Commonwealth states, and the Iron Road is essentially the train line that runs through all of the Driftwood. Again, we're not seeing all of it here, we're just seeing, you know, what's imperative for the campaign. Now, at the bottom of this is something called the Skeleton Cities. Now, the Skeleton Cities are probably the most dangerous place to go. You can go in this setting. It is an incredibly dangerous, incredibly violent place, full of mutants, monsters, you know, absolute horrors. Because this is the epicenter of where the magical Holocaust happened, that brought down the last empire that ruled the entire world. So as you can see, the Commonwealth states are as far away from it as possible. But catch-22, the Skeleton Cities, sorry, is where most of the best tech is in the world. But it's like, sort of like a fabled place where, you know, if you go there, you're not coming out again. But that, again, that's where the best stuff is. So if you want to get rich, that's where you go. Travel between the Commonwealth states and the Driftwood isn't free. You can't just waltz in and out either way. The Commonwealth states generally don't let people in from the Driftwood. It's just not done, unless they have a passport, and in which case they've probably bribed their way in, or they have some technology that the Commonwealth state in question wants. But on the other hand, you can go into the Driftwood. Again, you just need to bribe the right people. If you're in a Commonwealth state and you want to go into the Driftwood, you need to bribe the right people. They don't just let anyone in, because obviously you could stumble across something that they really want in future and you could sell it to someone else. So there is a lot of state sanctioned basically tomb robbing around the place, and there are stasis vaults all over the Driftwood which have vast repositories of old tech, which is the technology of the old empire, which is what everyone wants. You know, you can earn millions or even billions of dollars just coming across the one thing. Like, it could be as small as a computer chip, whereas if you take it to the right person in the Commonwealth states who knows how to use it and knows what it is, you can make an absolute fortune. So it's sort of like the gold rush in the Old West. You know, people come to a lot of people actually go to the Driftwood. They sneak into the Driftwood, hoping to become prospectors or treasure hunters. Never normally worked out well for them, because obviously the dangers of the Driftwood are many. Yeah. So that's basically the setting overview. There is a full setting campaign guide that I wrote. So if anyone ever wants that, you need to get in touch. But the team that we have at the moment, they started the first campaign basically working for the White Brothers in a place called actually, we didn't actually name the town. It was an unknown town. Oh, I just can't remember it. It was an unknown town on the left of this map here somewhere. So we didn't really put it down on the on the map. But they soon ran afoul because they were working for the White brothers. They broke one of them out of prison, but then returned to find the town that they were coming to, basically drop the brother off at, on fire, and the other brother crucified, which was not good. They were left for dead there after a long fight with a gang called the Seven Gang. Now the Seven Gang were probably the most notorious gang in this area that we're looking at now. Ran out of tombstone, and eventually the party, they wandered through the wastes, eventually coming to a town called Sweetsong and becoming its protectors, which we can see on the map on the left hand side. They actually took over Talon Keep, which is a massive fortress over there. Well, not massive, but medium-sized fortress. And they fought an actual war with the Seven Gang. It started out as they were just a thorn in the Seven Gang side, and it escalated into a full-on war, like a full-on massive war. Just a little picture of concept of the Driftwood that I had in my head that I found, and a concept of the Talon Keep there. It was much bigger than that, obviously. And the Driftwood where they are isn't as desert-like as that. It's a bit more green, but apart from that. And this is a picture that I liked that shows us some of the Commonwealth states. This is Ruvian, and it's how people dress there, that sort of thing. So, start that from beginning again. So, we're looking at the war came to a head when the Seven Gang actually attacked Talon Keep and threw everything that they had at it. In which John Seven, who was the leader of the Seven Gang, was actually killed. Killed by Jackson Steele, who is a member of the group of the Zero Gang, as they became known. They named their truck Zero, and they quickly became known as the Zero Gang. They bribed a man called Jimmy, who had come to that part of the Driftwood, to call in one of his contacts who used an airship to airlift them and quite a lot of survivors out of Talon Keep, where they went to Brindale on the left hand side, which is where another member of the party, Damien, was actually from. And they lowered them down there. So Brindale is actually quite a bustling community now, since they dropped everyone off in Brindale. And they then left, where they were betrayed, actually, the party, by the captain of the airship that they were on. And after a furious battle, which was the climax of the last campaign, they took over the airship, which was listing quite badly. And at that stage, though, they were around this area here. So they're heading towards Ruvian, because they fought all the way over here. They fought off pirates as well, and then eventually came to Ruvian. And at the start of, and they were surrounded by the air force, basically the airship fleet of Ruvian, and told to land. And that's where we ended the last campaign. And we started this campaign not seeing them at all. We started this campaign with a man called Cavan West, who was in Ruvian having a drink. And he is told by a contact from the Blackcoats, who are an organisation in the Driftwood over here, who help slaves escape, and they're generally the unofficial police of the Driftwood. They're based out of Foul Lanes Watch down here. They basically paid Cavan West to break the Zero Gang out of prison, because they'd been put in prison for flying a pirate ship into their airspace without permission. And Cavan did that. He went in there and he broke them out of a place called Cold Dark Prison in Ruvian. They fought their way out. They commandeered another airship, or it was the same airship actually, it was their own airship, but they took heavy damage leaving, and they crash landed a couple of miles away from Larkhill, which is where we actually start the session that we've just put up on YouTube. So I hope that brings everyone up to speed. As I say, it's a campaign setting that I really love, and I'm not saying that because I wrote it. I'm saying that because basically takes all the best bits from all of the post-apocalyptic fiction that I like, and it's all thrown into one world with a healthy dose of magic and the West, the Wild West. So this is the world that keeps changing, and as well, its guide is short. It's only a couple of 10,000 words, and it's that short because I want the players to define what goes on. I mean, Brindale over here, you know, they don't know this yet, and there's no harm in them knowing it if they see this video. Brindale is actually a city now. It's a bustling, thriving city because of what they did last time. They sent people over there. They went over there with everyone, and yeah. So that's a bustling city now. Sweet Song's gone, Silent Keep's gone, but Brindale's absolutely massive because it's far away from all the trouble that's around here. The Seven Gang are gone. So yeah, the Zero Gang basically are still only... I don't know if Cavern West is part of the Zero Gang yet. He might be. You know, they might let him in, but it's still only 3 strong at the moment. And they're all pretty much... They're not so much legends in the Driftwood. I mean, Jackson Steele is, because that's just how things are developed. But the other two, Damien and Shireen, they're not really legends. They're more just mercs. They're quite famous mercs, but they're not known all over the place. Whereas Jackson Steele pretty much is, for no reason really, because all he does is nearly get killed in nearly every single session. He's our Kenny basically. But yeah, a lot of these places that are on the map, you know, a few of them like Tombstone and Sundance have backgrounds. Gundark's Palace has a background, but everywhere else pretty much is open to interpretation. So we'll find out what those places hold when we get there. So this is this map will always be expanding. They can go in any direction, and I think what you'll see in like the last session at least, they were never meant to go to Gundark's Palace. They're never meant for them to do that quickly, but they did. And so, you know, it changed the story, and things will change as we go along. It's a completely open-ended campaign. I have a story in mind, and I will be prodding them down the road of that story. But for now, that's all I wanted to say. That's the catch-up to Driftwood. And we're now in Season 2. We've just finished Session 2. But episode 1. So this is I'm going to treat this as the first episode now that I've actually explained what happened in the first season and caught you up on what happened in the first session. Quite a shame actually, because it was quite a well put together session, for say so myself. It was quite well done. And all the players did really well. So I'll leave you there, and I'll be seeing you in the first part now of Driftwood Season 2. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a good campaign.